So, last times on Tales of an Accidental Homeschooler, we left our heroine a bit befuddled by her young children's relationship with school so far. Young Jackson was in, I think, 3-year old pre K, and Jordan was still a baby in arms. And we learned that it would take forever for the children to get accustomed to the school year. This happened with the story I told you last. This happened the next year. This happened the year after when Jordan joined pre-K. We had one incident where a teacher said, well, Jordan's failing. I'm like, Jordan's failing pre-K? And she said, well, yes, she won't count for me. She won't count for 10. She can't count to 10. I looked at her and I'm like, Jordan can count to 10. And she goes, well, she won't do it for me. And I turned to her right in front of Jordan. I said, Jordan, you can count to 10, right? And Jordan goes, yes. And I said, oh, why won't you count to 10 for the teacher? And Jordan said, she knows how to count to 10. And that's kind of how every beginning of the school year went. My children probably being a little too smart for their own good, and the teachers not knowing what to do about it. So, yes, our journey started in upstate New York. My husband was a young executive, so we moved a lot. We found ourselves in New Orleans, and that's where the failing preschool deal happened. And while in New Orleans, I got the notion again to homeschool. And this time it was on my own. I had been working for a company and they'd gotten on my last nerves. And I had decided that I was working really hard to pay for childcare and to pay for private school. Because in New Orleans, you have to do private school. There really isn't another option. At least there wasn't in 1999. Yes, it was 1999. And so I got the notion in my head. We'd gone to this big park a lot, and there were always homeschoolers there during the day. And I was very intrigued. And so I got on the net, the very, very slow net, and I looked up homeschoolers, New Orleans. And I found the name of a group leader, and I gave her a call. And I was like, hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm interested in homeschooling. And she was a joy to talk to. She, just started giving me information, the laws, how to start, yada, yada. And I said, well, I'd like to meet some other homeschoolers. Well, sure. Come on out to one of our meetings. We have a meeting in 2 days. And so, oh, bet, I'm coming. We're going to go to the meeting, and I'm going to meet homeschoolers, and I'm going to learn about homeschoolers. And then she asked me, so just so I can find you, because we're meeting at a park, this is what I look like. Blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever, I don't remember. What do you look like? And I was like, well, I'm driving a white Caravan, and I'm African-American, little heavy-set, braided hair. The stunned silence, followed by, I'll call you right back. Click. And I never heard from her again. And that just told me that there was an atmosphere where I could homeschool my children with support in New Orleans in 1999. And so we continued with private school. We did the thing. After New Orleans, I got pretty sick of New Orleans, and I stayed pretty sick of New Orleans. So my husband stayed in New Orleans, and I went to New York, back to Lower New York, because that's where my husband's parents were. And I just took the kids there, and the deal was when you get a job, somewhere else. We'll move because I can't stay sick all the time. I actually was sick for several years after that. And so we went to enroll the kids in school, and I got an apartment across town from my in-laws, and I was able to enroll my son in public school for first grade. And they didn't have pre-K in that part of New York at the time. And so I enrolled my daughter into a Seventh-day Adventist school down the street, and it actually went extremely well. And we'll talk more about that later, because that extremely well year was followed by an extremely bad year because the previous year had gone so well. Yeah. So we're in kindergarten in public school, and I realized 3 months in that the curriculum that we're doing in kindergarten and public school is identical to the curriculum my son had done the previous year. Did I say first grade public school? The curriculum first grade in public school was identical to the curriculum he had done in kindergarten in New York, in New Orleans. First grade kindergarten curriculum, identical to New Orleans. I'm not going to get this right. First grade curriculum, New York, identical to kindergarten curriculum, New Orleans. And that was problematic. So I asked for a conference. And I sat down across from the teacher. And I said, so Jackson is doing the exact same work this year that he did last year in the kindergarten. Yes, he's doing very well. Yes, but it's the exact same thing. He already did this, and he already did well. He can't, have the same exact page by page curriculum, that he had last year in a previous school. And she goes, well, you don't want me to frustrate the other children, do you? I jumped across the table. Not all the way across the table, but I just kind of, jumped across the table and said, I don't care about the other children, because I didn't. I want to know what was right for my child. If that meant promoting him to second grade, if that meant putting him into a higher level class, because they had different levels classes, whatever that meant, my child needed what my child needed. And so she went and she spoke to whomever, and they said, he would be tested for gifted the next year. But that was very telling. And that's where I'll leave you. Till next time.